Well, welcome to another episode of the Grace Team Leader Podcast. My name is Tyler, and I'm one of the pastors here at Northlands Church. And this podcast is dedicated to our champions here at Northlands, our Grace Team leaders. Perhaps if you're in a different church or organization, you would call these volunteer team leaders or service team leaders, perhaps volunteer coordinators. But here at Northlands, the ministry that takes place in this house comes from the lives of men and women who are serving their guts out continually week in and week out, and we call them Grace Team leaders. We talked a little bit about that last week, and I do want to recap as I'm saying thank you to our Grace Team leaders. Thank you for what you guys are doing. If you'll recall, last week we talked about the gateway gift. When we look at grace gifts, the gateway gift of grace's flowing is leadership. When it comes to leadership, leaders harness and maximize the graces on other people's lives and help ensure the flowing in the right direction. In order for grace to be flowing in the proper direction, it always takes leadership to help harness it, maximize and enhance it, and direct it in the right space. If you missed last week's episode, I would love for you to go back and listen to that. But we're excited to launch into week number 2. Before we do that, though, as we're talking each week, we're going to talk more and more around leadership and the principles around leadership of leading teams. I would love to hear your questions and comments. You can send those questions to my email, tyler@northlandschurch.com. But just know that when you're sending it to me, we're going to talk about this with multiple leaders within the church, Greg and Tom, other elders and deacons and leaders in the congregation. I want to get a full scope and talk through subjects. And so when you send in a question, it really helps us form episodes in the future. And so we're looking forward to getting those in, and each week we'll take time to either answer one of those questions or use one of those questions to form future episodes. So you can email those in, and also every single week we're going to be emailing these episodes to all of our Grace Team leaders. So if you're a leader and you're not on one of our Grace Teams, perhaps from another church, we would love to send that email to you as well. Feel free to send me your email to tyler@northlandschurch.com, and I'll add you to that email list. But we'll add these episodes both through that email send as well as on our website, northlandschurch.com, and I'll add the show notes in each week for that as well. But with that, let's jump in to episode number 2. I'm really excited about this week's topic. It's one that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to call it the 80-20 rule. What I want to talk about today is how do we build the ultimate dream team. I love what Harry Firestone says. He says this: the growth and development of people is the highest calling in leadership. Let me say that again. The growth and development of people is the highest calling in leadership. Oftentimes as leaders, we obsess about finding the right strategy or the right system. But what I found is great leaders, what they obsess over is empowering the right people. We oftentimes can easily see the deficiencies in our teams, the weak spots, the areas where like, man, I wish we could just grow in this area, or if we had some more resources over here, we could do a much better job. But I found that successful teams, it's not so much about obsessing on the strategies or systems. There's a space and time for that. But great leaders are constantly asking the question, have I invested enough time into my current team? It's about empowering the right people, not necessarily bringing in the right strategies or systems. So what is the 80-20 rule? Simply put, the 80-20 rule is this: as a leader, one of your number one roles, if not the number one role for you to keep in the back of your mind is this 80-20 rule. And that is 80% of your time should be about focusing and investing in the people that are currently on your team. Not spending 80% of your time trying to recruit new people or bring in new systems or try and get more resources for you. 80% of your time should be committed to giving it away to the people that are currently on your team. How are you investing your time into your team? And so what I want to do in true fashion of that rule, I want to spend 80% of our time today as we talk about building our dream team. I want to talk about 80% of it is going to be focused on how do we pour into the lives of the people that are currently on our team. And then as we close out the episode today, we'll talk about maybe 20% or so of how we spend that in bringing in new talent and attracting new people to join our team. So let's do this. Let's talk about 80% of building your A team, the 80% of what you should be doing and spending your time as the leader for your team. When it comes to building your dream team, where do we begin? What's the first step? So I've got 4 steps for us in total, and I want to just talk about this. Each area, really ask yourself, hey, I think I do this pretty well. I do 1 and 2 pretty good. Maybe 3 is where I need to work. But there's 4 steps, and if you're saying, well, I'm just starting at the beginning of this, really take the time to go through each and every one of these steps, because I think it will help you in a practical way to pour into your team, and you're going to see life come out of your current team, not just trying to bring in, again, new systems or new people onto the team. So here's step number 1. First step, know who you need. I think this is such an interesting thing. You think it's such a basic thing, especially if you've been leading a team for a number of years. You would think to yourself, well, I know who I need. I know that I need more people like Joe, or I need more people like Susan. She's amazing. But really think about this and list out what it is that you are actually looking for. Because I guarantee this, especially in a church context, we have people bumping into us all the time in the lobby who are the perfect people on our teams. And you know what? We also have people on our teams who are phenomenal people. They're just missing a couple things that we could help coach them up to. But if we're not clear on what we're looking for in an A-list player or a rock star, as I would call them, we're going to miss people constantly when they could be the ones bringing life into our team. And so let's talk about this. What do I mean by know who you need? Start by clarifying what is the dream player. So perhaps you've already got a couple rock stars on your team. You're saying to yourself, well, I know who the dream player is. It's Jim, it's Peter, whoever it may be for you. Ask the question, okay, but why are they such dream players? What I want you to do is actually list out the qualities of what makes up a dream player. If it's somebody on your team, overanalyze the heck out of them. Constantly say, okay, what makes them great? Well, they're always on time, or they've got such an energy and passion, or they're phenomenal communicators, or they're just so amazing with kids. They make the Bible come to life as they're talking to kids, or they can preach the gospel like nobody's business. They love serving. They love engaging in conversations, even with complete strangers. What is it about them that makes them amazing? And list those things out. What I would encourage you to do, though, is I would keep it down to at least 5, maximum 10 qualities, and I'll tell you why. You might list a bunch of qualities, but they're unfocused and they're not clear. So when I say, hey, you need to build a dream player and you only have 5 shots, what are the 5? If you could only pick 5 qualities in a player, what would it be? Now you're thinking way harder and way more critically, because if you only have 5, okay, the person has to have this, and that's it. You can't have any more than that. I would say maximum would be 10. If you have to have more than 5, 10, you have to stop yourself there, because if you have too long of a list, you're going to miss people. You're not going to remember all of those things, but you can remember 5 and constantly look for those keystones in each person that you want to bring onto the team, or how you want to invest in your team. So with that, the reason we want to list out these qualities is because these qualities are now becoming the value for your team. They're the team values. And so I'm going to talk about values and how we implement them into the team in just a moment, but I just wanted to keep that list there. So the first step, write down those qualities. What is it that makes a grade A rock star player? 5 qualities. If you have to do more, keep it under 10 for sure. Now, why do we do this? Because once we've done this, there's 3 things that happen. There's a few things that we can see. Once we have that list clear in our minds, here's what happens. It becomes very clear on who we should promote, who we need to coach, and who should not be on our team. This is critical. Who we need to promote. What do I mean? There's people on your team that maybe they're already currently serving in a lead role. You have to ask yourself, are they serving on a lead role because they match up with the qualities that we know are to be a part of our team, or did we just put them in leadership? But they also could be future leaders. There's people who might be possessing these qualities already. Then all we need to do is help them maximize the potential that they have in them in these areas. But it becomes really clear. As soon as you have the list there, these are our team values right here. Now you know exactly who's ready for promotion. You know who needs to be coached. You'll begin to see some deficiencies that now matter most, because when we're looking at the qualities, we go, okay, it doesn't matter if they're weak in this area or that area. It's only if they're weak in these 5 areas I need to help coach people. And so I don't have to coach everybody on everything of how they can be better. I just need to coach them on these 5 areas. And you'll be amazed. There might be somebody who's got 2 out of the 5, or they've got 3 or 4 out of the 5. And now you're coaching them up a hill that's very, very small, versus just like, well, we just need to do a whole overhaul on our team, and we just need new people altogether. I think sometimes we think overhaul, when in reality we just need to tweak a few things. And this exercise helps you do that. Now here's the one that's a little tricky. What it does for us when we write down these values, again, we know who we should promote, who we need to coach, and then we need to talk about who maybe should not be on the team. Here's what I want to say. Obviously, in a church context, we want to care for people well. We want to love them well. We want to be gentle with them. This is not hey, sorry, you didn't fit the list, so I'm going to kick you off the team. What we're trying to do is we're trying to fit people in Northlands, overall, the big picture. We want people to be in what we called last week their grace space. What is the thing that helps them thrive and to grow? And if they're in a space where they're really struggling on your team, it can't be feeling good that if they always feel like they're behind or they're losing. What do you think that does for them each week? I think we're doing people a disservice by keeping them in a space because they're filling a need for us, When in reality, if we could just release them to go do something that they're more passionate or more gifted in, it's going to help them grow as leaders, and it's also going to help us succeed as a team. So it's actually not caring just to keep them around, even though we go, well, they're not really contributing the way that they want, but bless them, they're here and they're on time, and so we just let them serve. I go, no. We would never let that happen if it was a worship leader, somebody who just does not have the gift of singing. We wouldn't just continue to hand them a microphone. And I think sometimes with other positions that we have here, we go, well, we have a need that needs to be filled. Let's be caring to people. Let's sit down with them and say, hey, how are you doing? Do you enjoy being on this team? What about it? Do you like and enjoy? Is this a space that you're supposed to be in? And maybe they give you an answer like, well, I signed up and I just wanted to finish my commitment for the year, but I plan to sign up for another team, next year. I go, well, help them in that transition now. Don't make them wait an entire year to come through signups again and sign up for different. Help them find that space and help them make the introduction to that other team and that Grace team leader. Help build the connection. Our job is not just to get tasks done around the church. Our job is to invest our lives into people. The caring thing to do is to get them in the space where they thrive in, because it'll help them grow, but it'll also help our team succeed. So that's why values are so important. We're going to get more into values towards the end of this. So step number 1, it was know who you need. Write out those qualities, and that's when we do that, it makes it really clear who we need to promote, who we need to coach, and who we need to maybe transition to another team. Step number 2, now that we've had our list, we've ironed out the list of qualities that we have to begin to build them into the people. So where do we begin that? For me, this is something that I've become incredibly passionate about, and it's something that takes some time. It's not something that is easy to do. As we talked a little bit last week, when it comes to empowering people and helping grow people into leaders, that is not an overnight thing. It takes a lot of time. And when we list out a bunch of qualities, here's what I found that usually happens. People go, okay, so here's the 5 things that we need our team to thrive in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a couple exercises, or I'm going to give them some resources, some books to read, and I'm going to go, hey guys, you need to be better at time management, or you need to be better in communication, or you need to be better at this or better at that. And so what we do is we give them a bunch of tasks. So hey, if you could just get on this so that you can do your job better, then we'll be good. And I found this, as leaders, our job is not to get people to submit to a bunch of tasks, because in our minds we go, well, if they can get the values down, then they'll be able to do what I say better. And that's not our job as leaders. Our job, we are not going after people's submission. What we want to do is we want to go after people's hearts. See, when it comes to values, when it comes to getting people on the same page, when it comes to building an all-star dream team and people running back and forth and doing what it is that they're called to do in excellence, it begins with unity. And unity it's not born out of a place of forced submission. It's born out of a place where people have your heartbeat and you have theirs. So let's talk. Before we get into practically training our teams up to being that dream team that we want, we have to talk about how do we capture the hearts of the people that are currently on our team. Because great leaders, again, aren't after the submission of people. They are after the hearts of people. So 2 things of how we can win people's hearts. The first one is this: how we say thank you matters. People can think about this for a moment. People are giving their times, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, twice a month, however often they're giving you the most precious commodity that they have, and that is time. They will not get that time back. So when they spend that time with you, you need to show them the profound gains that come from it. You need to show them, hey, you spent 2 hours of your time here today at church, but I just want you to know, here are 2 or 3 stories of life transformation that came from our team. You changed somebody's life by giving an hour of your time. For me, that's well worth it. But we also need to continually celebrate people. We need to thank them for their service. And so I would say this, I know most of you on our Grace teams, you guys are thanking people left and right. I know this. You say, hey, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for serving. I just go, if you thank somebody 5 times a Sunday, thank them 10 times this Sunday. Whatever it is, triple your usual thank yous, but also think about the way in which you say thank you. Not just a quick thank you passing in the lobby is easy. Anybody can do that. But what if you took time just this week, not for your entire team, but just one person on your team? What if you wrote a very small thank you card and just said, hey, I've been thinking about you this week. You just got to know you've done so well for us on this team. You've changed the rhythm and you changed the culture of our team. I just wanted to say thank you. This is just a card to say thank you. Or perhaps, the culture that we have here, we're constantly praying for one another and giving each other prophetic words. What if you took time to just ask Lord, hey, Lord, would you share with me about this person on my team? What do you think would happen if you did that for somebody? What do you think it would do for them? Do you think that they would leave Sunday and be like, oh, that's great? See, I think people are already giving their time. They're giving a precious commodity. When you thank them for it and you do it in a way that is a curveball, something that they did not expect, I think it goes much, much further than we anticipate. And that's not hard to do. As leaders, I think we overcomplicate. We go, what do I need to do to make our team better and strive more? It's not in strategies. It begins by building a passion for one another and a heart for the people on your team. And so when we start with the thank yous and celebrating them and their success, that begins to build loyalty with the team. The second way that we can build loyalty and capture the hearts of people on our team is we have to know their needs. I think this makes or breaks organizations, companies, churches. It's the people who have sincere relationships. They didn't just come in to do a job and get something done, but they came in to get a job done with people that they love being on mission with. And you have to convey that as a leader. You have to create that culture on your team. If you're just coming in, checking in, doing your thing, and then leaving, I'm telling you, one, it's not inspiring, and eventually people are going to get tired of just doing it. But if you create an environment when people walk in, they're doing life with their friends, they're on mission with people that they care about deeply. And how do you get to know people's needs? Well, you start asking them, how's their personal life? Hey, can I be praying for you? Is there anything that I'd be praying for? That you're sitting with and that you're considering. You don't have, as a leader, you don't have to have solutions to people's problems. Sometimes I think we're scared to ask people how they're doing because we're like, well, what if they tell us their problem? I feel like that there's something in me that I have to, well, do I have to fix that problem now? No. But to stand with them, to at least have unity. Perhaps there is something you can fix, but even if you don't have the power to fix a person's personal problem, at least to stand with them. It creates something in them. So what happens when we do these two things? When we celebrate and we say thank you to our team in different ways, and when we dive deep into knowing them personally, what happens? It produces passion, enthusiasm, loyalty, and a willingness to sacrifice, but not just to sacrifice for the mission. They're willing to sacrifice for you. There's this great passage of scripture in the Bible, and David's at war, and he makes a comment that he's thirsty, and his men go and they fight through a crowd of enemy. They draw from a well and they bring him the cup to drink from, and he realizes, he goes, that kind of loyalty should not belong to a man. And so he pours it out as a drink offering to the Lord. But the picture that I see in that is those men, David had their hearts. It wasn't just that he was a king. Any king could order you to go to battle. But that level of devotion means that somebody spent time going after those men's hearts. David had the hearts of the people, and that's what made him a successful leader, not his authority. And so when we invest in people by giving them the thank yous, talking about their needs, what happens is it produces passion, enthusiasm, loyalty, and a willingness to sacrifice, not just for Northland's mission, but for you as an individual. And I'm telling you, that is half the battle. There are so many times where somebody will ask me, hey, Tyler, can you handle this project? We're going to need a few guys to go and take care of this, to clean out this room, or to move this furniture. And in that moment, there's not an ounce of me that uses an authority that I have of submission. I'm not leading a team. I go to the guys that I just know I have their hearts and they have mine. I go, hey guys, I need a favor. I've been asked to do this. Could you help me? Could you give me an hour of your time? And those guys, again, they don't give me their strength. They don't give me their gifting. They don't give me their time because I'm an authority and they're submitting to me. They're giving their time and their energy to me because I have their hearts, and again, they have mine. As leaders, this is what we strive for. When we capture people's hearts, they're inspired to give their time. They're not just giving it reluctantly, but they're willing to do it for us and for the mission that God's called us to. So number 3, let's move through this. Number 3, once we've laid out our values, once we've taken the time to really put into practice capturing the hearts of our people, number 3, we want to clearly state the when and the why and the values, again, the qualities that we've listed out. We want to clearly state to our team, what is our win? Why is it our win? And then let's continually talk about the values. I'm gonna spend a lot of time. This is such a big deal. I'm gonna put an entire episode focused on how we understand our common win as a team and as a church as a whole. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about the win and why. That'll come in a later episode. But I just want to give a brief statement of it. This step for me, it has to happen on our Grace teams. You have to have this in your kickoff meetings when we're signing up for Grace teams. You have to have it in your mid-year meetings. Any gatherings that you have, you constantly have to have these items. As you're talking about practical details of the team and in training, always talk about statements of, did I clearly state the win again? Did I clearly state the why we're doing this? Did I clearly state the values that we have as a team? The win, it's driving home from church and saying this statement. Here's how you know what the win is for your team. Man, this morning at church was amazing because fill in the blank. When you drive home from church and you go, man, that what we just did was absolutely incredible because what is that for you? We'll talk more about that in weeks ahead, but that's what we want to do. We want to continually have that statement in the car ride home. Man, this was incredible because this took place. The why? Tell me why this win matters. We have to inspire our team to the win. It's not just enough to tell people what we need to do, but why we're doing it is what draws people in. So we'll talk about that again at a later episode. But I want to stay on the values for a moment. The values. Think of statements that remind them of the when and the why. This is how we get value. So we're going to list out the qualities that make up a grade A player, a rock star. Those now are the values for our team. We value this type of excellence. We value this type of practice on our team. And so we have to continually labor around the idea of crisp statements that reinforce values. So for example, I help lead our hosting team. So it's the team who is constantly casting vision for things that are upcoming, people who are on stage and giving clarity of what's happening next at church. And so for one of the things that I said was this, I said, here's a value statement for us. We are not a calendar reminder. We are vision casters. What does that do? It makes clear what we are not and what we are. So I tell my team, hey guys, just remember, we're not getting up there and just telling somebody something so they can put it in their calendar. We are not calendar reminders or notifications. We are vision casters. And so there's a value there. Now, how do I reinforce that? I'm going to say things like this. Remember, guys, we don't give announcements. We cast vision. Or I'll say something like, remember, guys, we are not telling people to attend an event. We are inviting them to join us on the mission. So what happens is now it goes in people's minds, okay, I'm going to get up there, I'm going to give energy and enthusiasm, and I'm going to give the very best that I possibly can, because I'm not here just to tell somebody about the dates of an event that's coming up. I'm casting vision about why we're having this event, why it matters, how it's going to change their life, why their family should come and be a part of it. Because we're here to cast vision, not to just be calendar reminders. Constantly make statements like that in front of your team in your meetings, because it'll begin to anchor into them, oh, okay, that's what success looks like. That's how I have to be. In order to be a success on this team, I have to act in this way. Again, even things like not even verbally saying it, but in Planning Center, we have our app. And in Planning Center, when it looks at the service announcements, we don't say announcements, we say invitations, because we're not announcing something to the church, we're inviting the church to a mission. And so even little ways that you word things that matters, that's the job of a leader. We have to continually help frame people into the space of here's the when, here's the why, and here's our values. And then number 4, and this one seems pretty straightforward, and I kind of hit on it at number 3, but we have to reinforce our values again and again and again. How do we do that? Simple. You celebrate it when you see it. Remember last week, it was a big day for all of us. I gave everybody a promotion. I said, you are CROs now. Congratulations. No change to your medical benefits or raises. But CROs, we are Chief Reminding Officers. And here's what I think when it comes to leadership. It's so easy to see people's weaknesses and deficiencies and try and coach them in that. People think that leadership is about coaching people to become stronger. But honestly, I think the best leadership begins with encouraging people in their strength and then building up enough trust that when they have to address weaknesses, there's a bridge of trust between two people. We've captured their hearts, and now we can talk about harder things to come. But first, let's start from their strengths and encourage them. I believe this. Leaders are supposed to be ever watchful for values, not deficiencies. Anyone can see someone's mistakes and correct them, but leaders look for opportunities to encourage just as much as they look for opportunities to coach. When it comes to seeing people's deficiency, anybody can do that. Anybody can see somebody's blind spots or weaknesses besides that person. Anybody can point out, well, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. But leaders, what do? We talked about this last week. Leaders see the potential of what could be in an individual, and we encourage and release that out of them. We start with their strengths and we celebrate them. We reinforce the values. So we have our 5 values, perhaps our 10 values max. And when we see those things happening on our team, what do? We celebrate. We go to that person and say, hey, you are nailing this, not just because we accomplished the task at hand, but because you're doing it in a way that is exactly their target. This is how we want to act and operate. And you tell them specifically, you did this well. Hey, thanks for being on post on time this week. Every single month this week, you are on time, on post. That is a huge value for us. What does that do? Why is celebration such a big deal? Because the moment you begin to celebrate what is the success of the team, what happens? People want to succeed more. People want to do it more. So when you're encouraging people, you're encouraging the actions that you want to see take place again and again on your team. And if you just encourage people in those 5 areas and avoid the other stuff, what's going to happen? Those 5 things are going to continually shine through again, and again on your team. All right, very quickly, I said it very quickly, that's the 80%. Let's talk 20% about how we bring new people onto the team. This is pretty much what we've already talked about. When we talk about the 20%, 80% of investing into the people on your team. Now let's talk about bringing people new from the outside onto the team. Here we go. Your team values that you've now listed, they are the lens to help you see new team members. You are never stopping in the recruiting process. 20% of your time can go towards systems and strategies and looking for new people. But when it comes to looking for new people, you're always on. It's not just for the weeks that you're serving. It's constantly. When you're bumping into people at the lobby, when you're talking to people and you bump into somebody at the grocery store that you know comes to the church, you're constantly looking for people who have the values that you treasure on your team. And when you have those values in front of you, what happens? You see them everywhere. It becomes the lens that is in front of you. When those values become so in you and on your team, now everybody on your team is like, oh, that person does exactly what we need people to do on our team. We see it clearly. It becomes the lens or which you can view people. Never take those lenses off. Always be on. Always be looking for people who have incredible potential on your team. Once you see or think of someone that you could be a great fit, let's talk about how we invite them to the team. This is so critical. How we invite people to join our team is just as key as making sure that we're finding the right person. How we invite them on is a really big deal. So there's two things that matter when it comes to inviting someone to the team. The first one is this: our method matters. In other words, how we communicate it to them. I'm just going to very plainly, text and email, they inform people, they don't inspire people. So to text somebody, hey, I didn't grab you at church. I was just wondering, maybe would you consider serving on our team this semester? It'd be really great. Thanks so much. Let me know if you can. Bye. I can send you more information. You've just given them a cost. This is going to cost you more time. It's going to take, any time that you had during the Sunday, now you don't have that time anymore. You've given them no inspiration. You told them nothing about your team. You told them nothing about what you're accomplishing, the things that get you excited. Texts and emails can inform people about something that is taking place, but it does not inspire people. You can text instructions, but when you are asking someone to give the most precious commodity they possess, their time, don't just state the cost. You have to inspire them with the gains, the vision, the mission. So again, if you text somebody, can you give me an hour to 2 hours to set up lights in the auditorium for our Christmas service? That's a cost statement. I've just said, hey, I need your help. It's going to cost you 2 hours of your time. It's for our Christmas service. Do you think you can help? Text, email, not effective. Let's talk about this. Better if a phone call at minimum, but even better in person if you can. But what if we said that same thing? Hey, I need 2 hours of somebody's time to get lights, for example. What if we said it like this? We give them a call or we're talking to them in the lobby. Hey, I just heard from Tom. We're expecting 100 to 200 more guests this year during our Christmas service than last year. And there's a solid chance the majority of them will be non-Jesus followers. So I'm putting a team together, a dream team, to help me kind of create an atmosphere that would be exciting for people when they walk in. It would mix things up. It'll make it look different. I just want it to be such a welcoming presence that when the people are hearing the gospel, there's none of the extra stuff that could be in their way or their obstacles. I would love your insight, thoughts on how we can do that. And I have some ideas myself. Could we spend some time at church dreaming up what it should look like, how it should feel? I want to start by hanging some lights. If you can help me start with that, and then from there we can build and go forward. Now, so what happens? I definitely made the ask. I said, hey, I need your help hanging some lights. But that was the very last statement that I made. I began with saying, hey, I just heard from Tom. We are super excited. We're going to have 100 to 200 more people last year. We're growing. This is exciting. It's probably going to be people who have never heard the gospel before. These are going to be family members of our members. They're going to be coming in. I want them to hear the gospel, but I want them to feel welcome in our home. I want the atmosphere to feel right. I want a team. I'm putting together a team to help me dream that up. And as I was thinking about who should be on our team, I just think you have such a creative edge and a creative eye. I would love for you to come with me. Let's sit in the auditorium and just think about how it should look and feel. I know on the base level, I want to hang some lights. So if we can start with that and then take a step back and we can move forward from there. I've made the ask, but what have I done? I've inspired people to not just what we need to do, but why we're doing it. Why lights are such a big deal to hang in there, because I want to create something. And when you invite people to be a part of that with you, you're not just asking them to do a task, you're asking them to dream and to imagine and to be a part of the process. This inspires people to do more and to give more. And then you have a reputation as somebody who's like, man, when I work with Tyler or when I work with Pam, when I work with somebody on a team, when they bring me on to serve on their team, they're inviting me into something much bigger than just hanging lights. And so they love to come back to you again and again and again because you've captured their heart, but you've also given them a mission to be a part of and to speak into. All right. Moving forward on that, another thing to remember, quality over quantity. I would rather you have 3 of those type of meaningful conversations than tell me that you've sent out 40 text messages or emails, because those emails, again, will inform people that there's a need that they might be able to help with, but better for you to take the time with 3 people and really close that deal of bringing them onto your team because you cast vision for them. All right, lastly and very quickly, our message matters. How we position the opportunity matters. Communicating a what? A task, that's easy. Anybody can do this. I need you to do this. But we're not after people's submission. We're after their hearts. It's better for us to communicate the why. Let's help them to dream. Let's talk about practicing that. When it comes to how you ask people, the positioning, the opportunity, you need to practice it yourself. You know how the conversation may go. I would just say before you make that phone call or before you set up that meeting with somebody, think through that scenario. Hey, how am I going to ask? I'm not just going to come in half measured out, half ready to position it. I'm really thinking of all my words. I'm choosing how I'm going to say this to somebody. Put into practice how you're going to make the ask. We know that we need to inspire them to vision. Talk about the vision with them, but practice that. How are you going to say it to them on the phone before you make that phone call? Don't rush this process. We feel like we don't have the time to belabor a point. We have a big need. It's coming up, and so we're just going to blast out to as many people as possible. Do not do that. Take your time, make the ask, cast vision, invite people to dream with you, and I'm telling you, you're going to begin to produce not just people who joined you on your team, but people who are leaders, and they are going to be all-star dream players. All right, quick takeaways from that. Very quick takeaways. When it comes to the 80% this week, here's what I would ask you to do. Can you start by listing out those qualities? Dream that up. If there's some rock stars on your team, use them as the measuring stick. But really think through what are 5 qualities that has to be present in the life of a person who's going to serve on our team. Number 2, take time to really think about the win for your team. We're going to talk about that in other episodes, but what's the win specifically for your team? There's some wins that we have here at Northlands on a Sunday service or just our overall life of the church. But for your department, is there a specific win? Hey, when this happens, we all celebrate. What is that thing? The more you can define that, the clearer you can make that, it's going to help your team focus on that target and give you the best of their strengths in the right direction. We'll talk more about that in the weeks ahead. Next, take your next team meeting or call a team meeting ASAP and clearly articulate the values and the win to your team. If you've not done this yet, write down those 5 qualities, that's your team values, and make a point to clearly articulate that with your team. Better even if you call a meeting and say, hey guys, I've got these 5 values here. What do you think about them? Really get voices and opinion. You're still the leader. You still have to make the call at the end of the day, but get insight and collaboration from people. It'll really help you focus and harness that in. Maybe start with 10 and see if you can bring it down, have the team help you bring it down to 5. All right, and then lastly, when it comes to your 20%, if 10% or 20% of your time is on recruiting, is that enough? Perhaps, but maybe not. I know that's what we're thinking. Well, if I spend 80% of my time focused on the players currently on my team, how am I going to get new systems in? How am I going to bring new people to the team? If you get your values and your culture right, you're not the only one recruiting. It's every person on your team is going to begin to recruit. Why? Because they're going to love it. They're going to be passionate. They're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to be on fire, willing to sacrifice and give your time, and they're going to invite people to join them as well. It's not about you spending all your time recruiting. It's about your team putting on that lens value and constantly seeing the potential of people who could be on their team. When we engage with our team in such a way where we've won their hearts and we set a culture that is healthy where people are thriving, now it's not just you as the leader bringing new people on, your entire team knows what to look for. So clarifying the values is not just about clarifying it for you, but clarifying it for your team so together you can build your dream team. Well, I hope this episode was helpful for you and for your team. I would love to hear your questions and remarks, so please send those in to tyler@northlandschurch.com. We, again, want to take those questions and use them for future episodes, but also maybe take some time to answer them before each episode. Next week, I am really, really excited about this topic. I want to talk about the forbidden phrase. There is a phrase here at Northlands that we are absolutely, as leaders, forbidden to say. The episode really is going to be focused around this: how to break bad habits on your team. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you then.